Okay. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We've got one more making her way down. Hope you enjoyed a good lunch, had a nice break. Let me ask you two gentlemen seated here at the end of both rows. From where you're positioned, can you see the witness's face when they are testifying? Yes? Yes? Okay. All right. Good deal. As you recall, ladies and gentlemen, when we broke for lunch, the state was still presenting their case. So, Ms. Hart, if you'll please call your next witness. This is Mr. Luke. Come on down. Thank you, sir. Right down here. Good afternoon. Before you're seated, Mr. Luke, please raise your right hand. You swear or affirm the evidence you're going to provide in the hearing of this case is going to be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you so much. Please be seated right there and give your attention to Ms. Hart. She'll direct your testimony.
My name is Philip Luke.
And Mr. Luke, I'm very sorry we need to speak up just a little bit for me. Perfect, thank you.
My name is Philip Luke.
Mr. Luke, do you know someone named Jared Luke?
I do, that's my brother.
And who's older, you or Jared?
I am.
Back in 2005, October 2005, how old would you have been?
18, I believe.
And did you know someone by the name of Tara Grinstead?
I did.
How did you know Tara Grinstead?
She was actually my high school teacher and had some family connections.
Had some family connections?
She helped my younger sister with pageants.
Okay. And what would that younger sister's name have been?
Lindy.
Now, did you ever have the occasion to go to Miss Grimstead's residence?
I did.
Once or more than once?
From my recollection, just once.
And what was the reason that you went to her residence?
To retrieve our family dog.
Now, when you went to her residence, do you recall what day of the week that would have been?
It would have been a Saturday.
And do you recall about what time of the day it was?
It was Saturday afternoon. I'm not sure what time exactly.
Fine. When you got to the residence, do you recall if her vehicle was home or not?
Yes, her vehicle was there.
And did you approach the door at any point?
I did. I knocked on her door.
Did anyone answer the door?
They did not.
What did you do after no one answered the door?
Our dog was in the backyard with her dog, and they had, I believe, a gated backyard.
Yes, sir.
So just got my dog and we left, and I believe I texted my mama and asked her to, call and let Tara know that we had retrieved the dog.
Okay. Now, did anyone go with you to the residence that day?
They did.
Who went with you to the residence that day?
Zane Deal.
Okay. Now, let me ask you, do you know the defendant in this case, Ryan Duke?
I do.
How do you know Ryan Duke?
I knew him in high school.
Okay.
I was friends with Jake.
And who is Jake?
Jake would be Bo's brother.
So to be clear, would that be Jake Dukes?
Jake Dukes.
And did you ever have an occasion to attend any parties at a place in Ben Hill County that was owned or leased by the Dukes family?
I don't recall any parties out there.
Okay. And specifically, we're talking about the Pecan Orchard area. Do you ever remember going to any bonfires out there?
Not personally, no.
Okay. Did you ever do you have personal knowledge if Zane Deal and Ryan Duke were friends or not?
Yes, ma'am, I believe they were.
And did you ever interact with them at the same time?
I'm sure I did.
Did Zane Deal ever get out of the vehicle that day?
Yes, ma'am.
And did either of you ever go into the residence?
No, ma'am.
Did either of you ever try the door to see if it was unlocked?
No, ma'am.
Now, you said your younger sister was in pageants?
That's correct.
Do you recall if she was in the pageant that was going on that particular day?
She was not.
So do you have any idea what time the pageant was going on that day?
I do not.
And did you see anyone else at the house, Ms. Grimstead's house, at the time you were there?
I did not.
Okay. That's all the questions I have.
All right, Ms. Gibbs, you're up.
Zane Dill was with you when you went to Miss Grimstead's house.
That's correct.
You don't know where Zane Dill went later Saturday evening.
At the time, I did not.
And as you sit here today, you don't know where he was Saturday evening, October 22nd.
I cannot personally attest to where he was at.
You personally knew Ryan Duke at the time of Miss Grimstead's disappearance, right?
I did.
And other people in your friend group, I guess you had overlapping friends, knew Ryan as well.
Sure.
Ryan had a reputation as a peaceful, non-violent person, didn't he?
He did.
And he had a reputation for being trustworthy.
I would agree, yes.
Overall, Ryan was considered a nice guy.
Yes.
Polite.
Yeah.
You also knew Bo Dukes at the time of Miss Grimstead's disappearance, didn't you?
I did.
And other people similar to Ryan, sort of friend groups overlapped, and people you knew Bo.
Sure.
Bo had a reputation as a liar, didn't he?
He did.
And as between Mr. Dukes, Mr. Ryan Duke and Mr. Bo Dukes, Bo was considered the more dominant of those two individuals, wasn't he?
He was.
No further questions?
Can you follow up, Ms. Hart?
Yes, Your Honor, may we approach for just a moment?
Sure. Ms. Hart, I'll hear from you.
Judge, as I already indicated, clearly on the testimony, they not only brought up his character for truthfulness, they also brought up his
Being a good guy,
being a good guy.
wasn't that the question?
That was the question. That is just completely blatant good character evidence, which under the rules of evidence that we have, opens the door to bad character evidence.
Okay. Want some water in here? She'll help you with some water. Thank you.
Judge, I apologize for the delay.
Just, I'm sorry, the jury door is open. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Watkins. Yes, sir. You're fine. Take your time. Ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Under 404A1, we're entitled to offer good character evidence from Mr. Duke. We're entitled, as a defense, to open the character door to the extent we wish to open the character door to particular traits of character. The state is limited in cross-examination to the scope of the traits we put into issue. And I'm not sure exactly what the state intends to present in rebuttal, but they would be limited to rebutting the specific traits that we put into evidence through this case.
It's a good guy trait.
Well,
I mean, that's pretty.
yes, Your Honor.
I mean, truthfulness is one specific thing. Reliability, I think, was another one, another specific thing. Good guy is pretty wide, right?
I understand, Your Honor, but we also ask specific questions about other specific traits.
I agree.
We may need a follow-up from the state on what the proposed character evidence is if they wish to rebut it.
I don't have any problem with that. Can you summarize that real quick?
Specifically, I believe this witness would testify that the defendant, Ryan Duke, prior to the murder of Tara Grinstead, had depression issues, and that in fact this witness was often worried that Ryan would hurt himself because of his mental health issues. I would also intend to ask him if he's aware of any of his prior arrests, because at this point, him being a good guy is about as general as you can get with character evidence.
All right, you get the last say, Mr. Merchant.
Yes. On the last issue, Your Honor, the issue of arrests, the Supreme Court made clear on that the fact that someone's been arrested for something is proof of nothing. Because the presumption of innocence, the fact that the police have arrested somebody, there's no relationship whatsoever to admissible character. So that's clear. And so, as far as it relates to the issues related to Mr. Duke's mental health, I don't know necessarily that we'll have any problem with that, because we understand that the state wants to do that, that's fine.
Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Judge, very interesting that they're indicating I can't use an arrest as character evidence, considering the fact that
I got it.
and actually, that if Your Honor doesn't want me to go further, that's the state's position. That is allowed for me to ask him if he has a knowledge of that DUI.
Which was never adjudicated one way or the other. Is that right?
I don't believe so, Judge, but I would have to verify that. The truth is I've never intended to go into that DUI because I cannot believe they opened the door this quickly. And so I don't have that conviction in front of me. I would simply be asking him if he's aware of that. I would probably also be asking him, there's an incident that occurred in which a fight took place. It was discussed with one of the jurors earlier. I would ask if he has any knowledge of that fight. I believe the defendant took place in part in.
Your Honor, let me correct once more. The state has to have a good faith basis for asking a specific witness as to certain facts. They can't ask a witness with obviously no knowledge of it, a leading question designed to affect the jury. So we need to know, outside the presence of the jury, whether the state has a good faith basis to believe this witness has any information whatsoever about the arrest.
About the DUI arrest.
About any arrest they intend to talk about in front of the jury.
You know anything about it?
I may have heard of the arrest for DUI, but I didn't have any first-hand knowledge of it.
You weren't there.
May I ask, Sergeant? The fight that I've just referenced, in which a lot of people were involved in that fight. Do you know what fight I'm talking about?
I do believe I know the fight you're talking about, but I was not present at the fight.
Okay. And how do you know about that fight?
Just through word of mouth, I guess, hearing people discuss it.
Have you ever discussed it with Ryan Duke?
No, ma'am, not that I know of, not that I recall.
Because I think I have a right to ask the question as it relates to DUI. He, in fact, has been arrested for DUI.
He doesn't know about it. You can ask somebody else. I don't think this is an appropriate witness for that.
From Judge.
All right. Mental health stuff. Go ahead. Okay.
Yes,
The
Your
fight, the DUI. I think the door is
Through a different
open.
witness?
Through a different witness.
Honor. Absolutely.
All right. Ask the jury to join, please. Yeah. What were you talking about? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We have done everything prior to today to get this case ready to deliver to you. Sometimes things just come up that I'll have to ask you to step outside. Nobody's trying to hide anything from you or anything. We just have rules we have to play by, and sometimes I need to speak with the attorneys outside your presence. Okay, so thank you for your patience with that. Don't read too much into it. Did one of the jurors, I understand, mention you couldn't see the witness from the screen? Thank you. Good deal. We'll just have to move it up and down. We'll take it down for the time being. Thanks for bringing that to our attention. Ms. Hart, you can continue.
Mr. Luke, you knew Ryan Duke before Tara Grinstead went missing, is that right?
That's correct.
And defense counsel just asked you several questions about what you felt and what his reputation was. So let me ask you this. Are you aware of any specific mental health problems that Ryan Duke had before Tara Grinstead was murdered?
I do believe he had some depression issues, but I never confirmed that directly with Ryan himself.
Understand. Was that from your observation of Ryan?
Observation and then others that spoke of it.
So that was something that amongst your friend group that was discussed?
I would say yes, at least a few times.
And do you recall if you were ever afraid, in fact, that Ryan may try and hurt himself because of his depression issues?
Yes, ma'am.
So you would agree with, or would you agree with me that his depression...
I'm sorry?
Actually changed it so it wasn't going to be leaving.
All right, we'll just start over.
Thank you.
Don't ask the leading question. Thank you.
Would you agree with me that it appeared to you that Ryan's depression was severe enough that it was affecting his behavior? Specific question, but it's not leading.
I overrule that objection. Thank you.
You can answer. Sorry.
Or what time frame are we talking here, though? Are we talking high school or?
Anytime before Tara Grinstead went missing.
So prior to her going missing, I don't believe I had that much interaction or contact with Ryan.
Yes, sir.
So I honestly don't know what his mental state would have been leading up to that.
Okay. So then the questions that defense counsel asked you about his reputation, would those have been before she went missing or after she went missing?
Before.
Before. So the fact that you indicated that you thought he was a good guy, what was that based on?
My interactions with Ryan before she went missing.
Okay. And you don't recall indicating to me at some point, do you recall indicating to me at some point that you were concerned about his depression issues prior to Ms. Grimstead going missing?
I don't believe I did, but I can't say for sure.
Okay. When's the last time that you actually interacted with Ryan Duke?
Well before Miss Grinstead went missing. Maybe 2004.
Okay. So you've actually not had any contact with him since 2004?
Personally, no, but there were some things that happened after she went missing that, again, it wasn't me directly talking with Ryan.
Yes.
But
amongst your friend group, would you say that was an issue or concerns?
amongst my friend group, I'm not really sure.
Okay.
I was slightly younger than them by a few years, so...
Yes, sir. So I just want to be clear, in the statements that you've made about Ryan's personality, do you really know what Ryan was like at all in October of 2005?
I do not.
And as it related to his relationship with Bo Dukes, how would you describe their friendship?
I would have described them as best friends.
No further questions.
Mr. Gibbs, any follow-up? All right, Mr. Luke, thank you for your testimony, sir. You're welcome to stay, go, whatever you'd like to do. Only thing I'll ask you is please don't discuss the testimony you've given here this afternoon with any other witness in the case until the case is concluded, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're free to go. Call your next witness, please. Call your next witness.
Thank you, Judge. The state will call Troy Davis to the stand.
Good afternoon, sir. This is Mr. Davis?
Yes.
All right, if you'll please step down here, thank you. Before you're seated, sir, raise your right hand, please. You swear or affirm the evidence you're going to provide in the hearing of this case is going to be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Please be seated. All right, we'll start.
Let me get you to introduce yourself to the jurors, please.
My name is Troy Davis.
And I believe it's actually Dr. Davis, is that correct?
It is. We don't use that a lot, but it is.
Okay. Well, Dr. Davis, are you currently employed?
Yes, I am.
How are you currently employed?
I'm employed with St. Johns County School District as a federal programs director.
Okay. And how long have you been employed in that capacity?
Coming up on 2 years.
You said St. John's, is that what you said?
St. Johns County,
Where is that?
St. Augustine, Florida.
And prior to working at St. John's in that capacity, have you had an occasion to work in education over the years?
Yes, I have.
How long have you worked in the education system?
Oh, 30 years.
Did you ever work in the education system here in Ocilla, Georgia?
I did.
And how long did you work here in Ocilla?
1991 till 2005.
Are you originally from this area?
I am from Pearson, Georgia.
Pearson. Okay. During the time period in which you worked here, what different jobs what capacities did you work here in the Ocilla school system?
I served as an assistant principal, a principal, a director, curriculum director, school superintendent.
Taking you back to 2005 and before, did you have an occasion to meet someone by the name of Tara Grinstead?
Yes.
And how did you know Ms. Grimstead?
She's a teacher in our school district.
And at the time that Ms. Grimstead came to work here, were you superintendent, or do you recall?
I don't recall.
When you left here as superintendent, where did you go to work?
Lowndes County.
Do you recall at the time that she went missing if you were working here or in Lowndes County?
I was in Lowndes County.
Now, in the weeks leading up to Ms. Grimstead going missing, did you ever have cause to worry about her mental health?
Well, I was concerned about Tara. I'm not a mental health expert, but I was concerned about Tara.
Now, I don't want to go into anything Tara said to you, but did there come an occasion in which you had to assist Tara in getting back to her house, or into her house?
Into her house, yes.
And don't tell me what anyone said, but who called you when that incident occurred?
My then wife called me.
And what was her name?
Missy.
Missy. Did you then go to Tara's home or somewhere else?
I actually went to her home. I was driving from Valdosta, and I went to her home from Valdosta.
When you got to Tara's residence, was anyone else there?
There were.
Who else was there?
As I recalled, Dina and Larry Harper were there. Joe Portier was there.
Yes, sir.
And I want to think there may have been one or two other people, but I don't recall.
Now, do you know what the relationship was that Larry and Dina Harper had to Tara?
Their son had previously dated Tara.
To your knowledge, first of all, what was their son's name?
Marcus.
To your knowledge, was Marcus Harper and Tara Grinstead, were they dating at the time this incident occurred?
To my knowledge, no.
And when you arrived at the residence that day, where was Tara?
She was in her car.
In her car?
In her car.
What kind of vehicle was that? You know the color?
It's white, sports car,
Okay. Was she in the driver's seat or the passenger seat?
passenger seat.
And how did Tara wind up getting into her house that day?
I carried Tara in after trying to talk her into going to the inside.
At that point, how long had you known Tara?
I don't know. I don't recall. I mean,
In addition to having known her through the school system, would it be fair to say you were somewhat of a mentor to Tara?
yes, I would say that.
And Had Tara ever visited in your home?
She had.
Now, on that particular day, can you describe for us Tara's demeanor?
She was very upset, very distraught, crying.
And when you took Tara into her house, what did you do with her?
I laid her on the couch, on her couch in her living room.
Well, did anyone else come in the residence with you?
Yes.
Who came in the residence with you?
Joe Portier and Dina Harper did. I can't recall if anybody else did.
How long did you stay at her residence that evening?
Till 2 a.m. that morning, roughly.
Were you the only one there besides Tara?
Joe Portier stayed until probably the last 10 minutes
Yes, sir. Why did you stay at her residence until 2 a.m.?
because I was not sure about Tara at that point, where she wanted to leave and we did not want her to leave.
Okay. Now, jumping forward to the weekend that Tara went missing, did you have an occasion to see Tara the weekend of October 22nd, 23rd, into the 24th?
Whatever the Saturday was,
And where were you when you saw her on Saturday?
at my home.
Who else was there?
At the time that Tara came, Gloria and Stan Mix, Larry and Dina Harper, my children, Missy. I don't recall if anyone else was there at that time.
And what was going on at your house that all those people were there?
Well, it was a University of Georgia football game that afternoon, so we watched Georgia football and we had a cookout or dinner, and she stopped by.
Do you recall about what time it would have been when Tara got to your house?
It's going to be later because she had been working with beauty pageant, and
Yes, sir.
so I don't recall what time, but it was dark.
It was dark. And do you recall about how long Tara stayed at your residence?
Not more than a couple of hours, maybe. I don't know a specific time.
Do you know if she left before or after the game finished?
Well, that game had already stopped, and we were watching another football game, actually.
Okay. When was the last time you saw Tara?
Just after 11 o'clock p.m. that night.
Where that night?
Yes.
Where was that?
I walked her, we had went inside, and I walked her to her car. I actually walked on the deck, and she walked out to her car.
Did you see her get in her car?
Yes.
Was anyone else in the vehicle when you saw her get in her car?
No.
And I know it's been some time ago, but do you recall what Tara would have been wearing that evening when she was at your house?
I remember something brown.
Okay. Show you what's already been admitted to evidence.
It's getting hidden from me.
Please. Thank you.
This is a copy of State's Exhibit 2. This will be easier. I'm going to show you a copy of State's Exhibit 2. Ask you to take a look at that. And do you recall if that is consistent with what you saw Tara in, or not consistent, or you simply don't recall?
Yes, that's consistent with what I remember.
No, you mentioned there being something brown. I'm going to show you what's been marked as. It's been marked as 3B. Do you believe you've ever seen this particular item before?
No, I don't recall. I don't.
Could this be the coat she was wearing that evening?
Possibly.
But what you're seeing in States 2, you said that is consistent with what she was wearing
It's
at the
what
time?
I consistently, as I recall. did not.
Did you see what direction she headed when she left your house?
Yes,
Would that have been towards her home or away from her home?
toward her home.
Man, just a moment, Judge.
Sure.
No further questions, Judge. Thank you.
All right, any cross-examination? Mr. Burkett?
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, Mr. Davis. To your knowledge, sir, did Ms. Grinstead have prior difficulties with any of her students?
I don't, as a teacher, you have problems with students. I mean, I don't know specifically behavior issues. Sure, I'm sure she did. I don't know that, but
Yeah, and I'm asking more specifically about students that made her fearful.
she did have an incident one time, yes, that I recall.
Who are the names of the students that she was fearful of?
And Judge, I'm going to object to this point. He's asking if he has knowledge, and we want to ask where that knowledge came from, and I believe the answer to him is hearsay. So I object to the hearsay.
What's causing this reverberation again? Do y'all know?
I know they worked on it during the lunch quite some time, but I don't know what's going on, Judge.
All right, well, if you'll just explore the source of it, I'll be fine. If you'll rephrase your question, thank you.
Sure.
I sustain that objection, Your Honor.
So, did you have specific conversations with Ms. Grinstead about issues she had with her students that caused her to be fearful?
I don't recall having a specific conversation with Tara.
So, the source of your belief that she had been fearful of certain students, did that come from her or someone else?
A mutual friend.
So you had no personal knowledge about any of the specific names of students from Tara?
Not that I recall.
So who was the source, who's the friend that gave you that?
Mr. Portier.
And do you pronounce his name Portier or Portier?
Portier.
And when you spoke with Mr. Portier, following that, to your knowledge, did you reach a belief that Tara Grinstead was most fearful of Anthony Vickers?
Objection, Judge clearly calls for hearsay.
I'll hear from you.
Mr. Portier's probably waiting outside, Judge, and he's available to testify. So
I agree, we can ask him.
Sustain that objection, thanks.
Did Miss Grinstead, when she left, tell you she was going home to change into jogging pants?
I do not recall her telling me she was changing.
You don't recall that?
No.
And while she was at your house, did she talk to someone on the telephone?
Yes.
And were you close enough to overhear the conversation?
I don't recall the conversation, but it's close enough to hear her talk to someone, yes.
Would seeing a summary of your interview with the GBI refresh your recollection as to what you may have overheard?
And Judge, I'm going to object at this point. It's actually the defense's motion that we not go into any hearsay from Ms. Grimstead. We consented, and that's clearly what's going on right now.
And yes, Judge.
You like to hear?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Under 803.3, there's a hearsay exception for state of mind or emotion that is conveyed by a declarant who does not testify in court. That's where we're proceeding, Judge.
This is, I understand, the night of the 22nd, is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Just there's been no foundation that there's anything to do with her state of mind. He's stating that, but in fact, I don't believe that's going to come in under the evidence that there was state of mind.
I'll admit it. I overrule your objection.
Does that clarify then? Does that mean that's opening the door to statements that Ms. Grimstead made to people that evening, or just this specifically?
Well, we'll take them one at a time.
Thank
This
you.
one specifically for right now. Thanks.
May I approach, Judge?
Yes.
And I think I got your answer, sir, but would seeing a copy of your GBI interview summary assist you in refreshing your recollection as to what may have been said?
I'm sure it will help. I mean,
So if you'll turn to page 6 of 11. And this is towards the bottom. If you want to read to yourself the last 4 lines of the summary and tell me if that refreshes your recollection as to what you overheard.
yes.
And you can put that down now, sir. So what did you overhear Ms. Grimstead say on the telephone?
What did I hear her say on the telephone? She had a conversation with someone, and at the end she ended the conversation, "I love you."
Thank you, Judge. That's all I have.
Can you redirect this part?
Do you have any idea who she was talking to that day?
And she told me it was an old high school friend.
No further questions.
Based on that, Judge, I do have a follow-up.
Okay.
Sir, if you maybe you remember now, having been asked about it, but if you don't, feel free to take a look at that and tell me between pages 6 and 7 whether or not that refreshes your recollection as to who she may have spoken with.
Yes.
Okay. Who was she speaking with?
She said it was someone named Heath.
That's all I have, Your Honor. Thank you.
Any further, Ms. Hart?
Ma'am.
All right. If you'll hand me that document you were just looking at, Dr. Davis, thank you for your testimony. You're going to be excused at this time. You can go to St. Augustine, stay, whatever you want to do. The only thing I'm going to ask of you is please don't discuss the testimony you've given to this jury this afternoon with any other witness in the case until the case is concluded, okay?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Call your next witness, please.
Keith Dykes.
Mr. Dykes, please. We've asked everybody. Anybody on the jury know anything about electronics? Maybe y'all help us with the same. All right. Good afternoon, sir. This is Mr. Dykes?
Yes, sir.
Good deal. Come on right here, please.
Yes, sir.
Before you're seated, please raise your right hand. You swear or affirm the evidence you're going to provide in the hearing of this case is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you so much. Please be seated right there. Ms. Hart will undertake your direct testimony.
Can you first introduce yourself to this jury?
I'm James Heath Dykes.
How are you currently employed?
I work for the Perry Police Department.
How long have you worked for the Perry Police Department?
29 years and 6 months.
What is your current job assignment with the Perry Police Department?
I run the Criminal Investigative Division.
And I'm going to take you back to 2005. Did you know someone by the name of Tara Grinstead?
I did.
And how do you know Tara Grinstead?
We grew up together in the same town, Hawkinsville.
Are you same age?
She's 4.5, 5 years younger than I am.
After high school, did you ever see Tara again?
I did.
And when was it that you first got to know Tara after high school?
When I was at Georgia Southern, I talked to her several times during that time.
Okay. Was there ever an occasion in which your relationship with her went beyond friends?
Yes.
And when did that occur?
2005, 2004.
How long before she went missing do you believe that your relationship had escalated?
How many months?
Months, years, whatever it is.
It's around 8 months, I think.
Now, prior to that, had you been in contact with her on a regular basis before the relationship became more than friends?
Excuse me?
Were you in contact on a regular basis prior to those 8 months before?
Oh, yes, yes.
And go ahead and ask you, were you married in 2005 when your relationship turned to a sexual nature?
Yes.
During relationship with Miss Grinstead, how often would you see her?
Maybe twice a month. It was
How often did you speak with her?
we spoke daily.
And in 2005, what different phones would you have had access to?
I had a cell phone.
Would that have been a personal cell phone or a work phone, or do you
Yeah.
recall?
Yes, a cell phone. It's a work.
Work cell phone.
Correct.
Do you recall if you had a personal cell phone?
I did not back then.
Did you have a house phone at the time?
I did.
And I know we're talking about a number of years ago, but do you recall what your house phone would have been at the time? The number?
478-988-3026.
Okay. Very good. What about your cell phone back then? Do you recall what that number would have been? If you don't, it's okay.
I don't. I think it's a 338 number. I think, but I might be wrong.
And then what about your office? Would you have had a office phone?
I do.
And again, what department was that you worked for?
Perry Police Department, Investigative Division.
Do you know what the number would have been there?
My direct line is 988-2822.
Speak up just a little bit, please.
My direct line is 988-2822.
And what would have been the area code for that?
478.
Did you ever communicate with Tara on your cell phone?
Yes.
Do you recall if you ever spoke or called her from your house phone?
Yes.
And then what about the number at your work? Do you recall if you ever spoke with her or called her from that number?
Yes.
Now, I know it's been a long time, but do you recall how long it had been since you saw Tara prior to her going missing?
It was the Wednesday, the 19th of October.
And do you recall when it was that she went missing?
Well, it had to have been Saturday night sometime, which would have been the 22nd.
Okay. Now, I want to direct your attention back to that Saturday. Did you speak with her on that date?
I did.
How many times did you speak with her?
I know of two.
And was that on your phone, text, and what way did you speak with her?
Cell phone.
Cell phone. Did Tara have a cell phone?
Yes.
Did Tara have a house phone?
Yes.
At the time, did you have both of those numbers as well?
I did.
Was it unusual that you might communicate with her on both of those numbers?
Yes.
It was unusual or it was not?
It's not unusual. No, it's not unusual.
Did there come a time in which you were unable to get in touch with Tara?
Yes.
And what was the day of the week, at least, that occurred?
That was Sunday morning.
When you had last spoken with Tara, had you had plans at that point to see her?
We had talked about it the night prior,
Okay.
and I said if I could work it out, I would try to see her Sunday.
And when you say you would try to see her Sunday, was there a plan for where that would occur, that meeting would occur?
Well, I would just have called her and we'd have met up.
So would it have taken place at her house, your house, somewhere else?
Probably her house.
Her house. How far was the drive from your residence to her house back then?
Hour 25 minutes.
And what about from your work to her house?
About the same.
So tell us what you were doing Sunday morning and how that day played out, please.
When I got up Sunday morning, actually, I went deer hunting with a couple of friends. Got back to the house. My kids had a fall festival at their school.
Yes, sir.
And we went to the Centerville Elementary School where we went to fall festival. After we left there, we grabbed something to eat, I think at Larry's Subs. From there, I was in contact with a guy I was supposed to go deer hunting with that afternoon, and told him that I was going to be hunting in Hawkinsville that afternoon, and basically went by a friend of mine's house in Hawkinsville, Mr. Cootie, and visited with him up till the time I went deer hunting.
Okay. During this time period, did you attempt to reach Tara?
Several times.
Did she ever answer?
Never.
When she did not answer, what did you do, if anything?
I left a message on her house phone.
Into Saturday night, Sunday, did you ever speak with Tara's mother, Faye Grinstead?
I did.
How did you know Miss Faye?
She worked for my dad and grew up just, Hawkinsville's small like this town. Everybody knows everybody.
Okay. Now, to your knowledge, did Miss Faye know about your relationship with Tara?
I'm not 100% sure she knew the extent of it. She knew we were really close and real good friends.
Okay. Do you recall if you spoke with Miss Faye on Saturday?
No, I didn't speak. I don't remember speaking to her, I'm sorry.
What about on Sunday?
Yes.
Now, Saturday evening, specifically, I think I may have asked you this, but I want to be clear. Were you and Tara ever able to actually speak on the phone? Saturday night.
Saturday night, yes.
Okay. And then on Sunday, do you recall when it is that you would have spoken with Miss Faye?
It was late into the evening. She called me.
Okay. And after speaking with Miss Faye, did you do anything?
Yes, I decided to go down to Tara's house to see if I could find her.
At this point, would you say you had left a number of messages for Tara?
Oh yeah, a bunch.
Was it usual that she would not call you back or respond to your messages?
No.
Why did you drive to Tara's residence that night?
Because I was worried about something was wrong. I just knew it wasn't like her character to not respond, not answer, just completely go.
When you spoke with her on Saturday, I apologize, did I interrupt you?
No, ma'am.
When you spoke with her on Saturday, what was her demeanor?
She was kind of down. She was, I don't know, kind of sad. And I tried to, talk to her and cheer her up.
Yes.
Try to be funny with her. And basically, when we hung up the phone, about 5 or 6 seconds later, after we hung up, I called her right back, and she answered the phone, and she seemed to be in a better mood then, and so.
Did you have any reason to think that, did y'all have a fight or an argument on Saturday?
No.
When you went to Tara's house, what did you do, if anything, on Sunday?
I pulled up in the driveway, and it was late, probably around 12 a.m. I called Miss Faye and told her I was there, and that I went to the front door, knocked on the door several times, walked around. The dog was barking.
Yes, sir.
She had a dog named Dolly. It was barking. I walked around to the fence and patted it, calmed down. And I walked back over to the carport where a car was, and I put my hand on top of the car to see if it was warm, and it was cold.
Yes, sir.
I tapped on the window up there, trying to see if, put my knuckles and hit the window to see if, somebody would hear me.
Which window would that have been?
I'm going to be honest with you, I think it's the front one. That I could see some ambient light in there, like a computer screen.
Yes, sir.
Was lit up, like a screensaver was lit up, and I could see the ambient light in there, but that's all you could see. It was very dim.
Yes, sir.
And I just banged on it, trying to get somebody to come to the door. And I called Miss Faye. At that point, I called Miss Faye after exhausting all attempts to try to, make contact with her.
Yes,
and I asked her what she wanted me to do. She had a neighbor by the name of, she called him Mr. Joe. I don't know his last name, Porte or something.
Fine.
Anyway, I asked Miss Faye at that point, did you want me to go over to Mr. Joe's house and see if he knows anything, if he's heard from her? And she told me no, it was too late, that she would contact Mr. Joe in the morning and have her check on Tara.
When you were at Tara's house outside, do you recall if you actually called her home phone as well, trying to get her to answer?
I'm sure I did. And I left a business card. I took my business card out of my car, and I put a note on the back of it, and I stuck it on the door, put it in the wedge of the door.
Show me basic counsel of the Martin States exhibits 40, 41, and 42.
Sure.
Let me show you first what's been marked as States Exhibit 40 and ask you if you recognize that.
I do.
How do you recognize States 40?
That's the house that Tara Grinstead lived in.
And is that a true and accurate depiction of what that residence would have looked like back in October of 2005?
It is.
Now I'm going to show you States Exhibit 41 and ask you, do you recognize the area depicted in States 41?
I do.
And what do you recognize that area to be?
The little walkway going up to the...
Okay. I know I'm close to you, so you're talking low, but I need you to talk a little bit louder for me. What is that?
The little walkway going up to the front door.
Okay. Now, specifically, the item that I'm pointing to in States 41, do you ever recall seeing that item?
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. We're having mic problems all day today.
All right. No, ma'am, I do not.
Okay, and then I'm going to show you a close-up of that, States 42, and again, ask you that question. Do you ever recall seeing that specific item before, States 42?
I do not.
As it relates to States 41, other than the item that I've just pointed to, does that appear to be a true and accurate depiction of what her yard would have looked like back in October of 2005?
It does.
Right, this time I would tender in evidence States Exhibits 40 and 41.
Any objection or board aye? Thank you, Mr. Merchant. 40 and 41 are admitted without objection.
And then I'm going to show you what's been marked as States Exhibit 43. And you can take that out if you need to, take a look at it. But can you tell me if you recognize what's in States 43?
That's my business card.
And that particular business card, is there any writing on it?
It is.
And whose writing is that?
It's mine.
Okay. Does that appear to be the business card that you left in Tara's door back in October of 2005, the evening you were unable to reach her?
It is.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time I would tender in evidence States Exhibit 43.
Merchant needs objection. That's admitted without objection. Thank you.
Can I call those face to jury?
That'll be fine. Ms. Watkins, if you'll help us with our screen. Thank you. I'm going to put it on there.
I'm going to try this.
All right. Good. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, y'all seen that image on your screen? Thank you.
Okay. Do you see that image as well, sir?
I do.
Okay. Let me see if I can. For some reason, it's crooked. Can you tell the jury what we're looking at there?
That's Tara Grinstead's house.
And again, here, the vehicle that we see, do you recognize that vehicle?
I do.
Whose vehicle was that?
Tara Grinstead's.
And had you specifically seen Tara driving that vehicle before?
Yes.
Now, the window that you said, or excuse me, the door that you said you knocked on that evening, do we see that door in this picture?
We do.
Would that be this door that's it's open in the picture?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then, do you recall, I think you said you went over in the back to see Dolly, the dog. Which way would you have gone to see Dolly?
Looking at the picture to the left on the other side of the car.
So this way?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, do you know which side of the residence Tara's bedroom was on?
Would be on the right side.
So over here?
Correct.
These windows that we see here, and again, I know it's been a while, but do you recall what room those windows went to?
I think it's her bedroom.
Okay. And do you know if there were any windows on the other side of the house as well? There weren't, or you don't know?
I don't know.
Okay, that's fine. Now, you talked about knocking on some windows that evening. Do you see the window that you would have knocked on that evening in this particular picture?
I believe it's the front one for the far left.
The
With
front to
the
the
three
far.
the three windows you see in a row on the far left.
Here?
Correct. That one that you got your finger on.
Sorry, it's upside down for me, so that
Okay.
my left and right are different. Okay, so these windows right here,
Yes, ma'am.
and what room do you believe those go into in the house?
That's the den area.
Okay. Do you recall if you walked around, in addition to walking in the back to see Dolly, do you recall if you walked around anywhere else in the residence?
In the carport there.
Okay. Now, do you know if there was another entrance to the residence in the carport here?
There was.
Did you ever know Tara to use that that entrance?
I did.
And do you recall if it was actually blocked off on the inside or not?
I think it was. I never went in that area, but I think it was like maybe a laundry room or something was
Okay.
in that area. But there, I did knock on that door as well.
Now, I'm going to show you what's been marked as
We were just looking at?
Exhibit 40.
All right, thank you.
Exhibit 41, and again, we indicated when we were talking earlier, this particular item that I'm pointing at, have you ever seen that item before, the one that's exhibited in States 41?
I have not.
Okay. However, this area, what is that depicting?
Like a little walkway going up to her front door.
Okay. Specifically, these steps, would they have approached or gone away from the front door?
I think they're going out towards the driveway, I believe is how it went.
Okay. And in the opposite direction, would they have gone toward the door?
Correct.
Okay. When you approached the door that evening, this particular item that we see in the straw, would that have been in front of you or behind you?
Behind me.
Okay. And what time of day or night was it that you were out there?
12. Midnight.
Okay. Did you have a flashlight out?
No.
Did you, I know we're talking about days where cell phones probably didn't have lights on them, but did you ever recall using any light to be able to see the yard that evening?
No, I just,
Were you looking for anything specifically in the yard that night?
I just focused mainly on the house and
Okay.
knocking on the door and seeing someone's home.
Do you have any way of telling this jury whether this item in States 41 was there the night that you were at her house? Do you have any way of knowing if it was or was not there?
I don't have any way.
Do you have any way of knowing?
I overrule that agree.
No.
You don't have any way of knowing? Okay.
I don't know if it was there or not.
And then State's Exhibit.
I'm good. I'm good, thank you.
This is exhibit number 43. Again, can you tell the jury what they're looking at? Exhibit number 43.
That's my business card
Okay.
with my cell phone number on it.
And where did you leave this particular business card?
In the door, front door.
Did Tara have your cell phone number?
She did.
Then why would you have left your cell phone number on there?
I don't know.
As as law enforcement, when you're leaving your card in somebody's door, do you generally leave your cell phone number on it?
I do, and what I'm thinking is probably already, I probably pre-wrote it on there on my business cards, because I do, in my job, I do what is called neighborhood canvasses, and I
Yes,
go
sir.
out and I leave my cards on people's doors. So I probably just wrote it on there, and it was just one of my cards that had my number written on it.
Okay. And I know earlier you weren't positive about what your cell phone number was back in 2005, but looking at this particular number, with that, you said that would have been your cell phone number at the time?
That's it.
I'm going to need this portion. Okay. Have you ever had an occasion to hear the messages that you left on Tara's home phone back in October of 2005?
I have.
Shall I take the council by marking a state exhibit 200? I'm going to show you what I've marked as State's Exhibit 200 and ask you if you recognize that.
I do. It's the CD with the phone messages, and I reviewed it on 8/2/2021 in your office in the tip,
Now, how do you know that specific CD is the one that you reviewed in my office?
because I initialed it.
And having had a chance to listen to that recording, do you recall if other persons had left messages on the cell or on her home phone as well?
I think there was a few messages from other people.
Okay. What about Faye Grinstead? Did you know her voice?
I do.
Okay. And if you were to hear Miss Faye Grinstead's voice, would you know it?
Yes.
Do you recall whether or not Miss Faye's voice is on these recordings leaving messages for her daughter?
Yes.
Your Honor, this time I would tender an evidence State's Exhibit 20.
Any objection, Mr. Murphy?
Okay.
No objection. That's a,
Of course, the record though, since it contains multiple statements, something we need to clarify.
all right, you don't object to, I'm assuming Mr. Dykes or Ms. Faye Grinstead's messages. Is that correct?
And Your
Any further?
Honor, as you can tell, I skipped to number 200. I wasn't going to play it with him, and I decided I would. I'm only going to play a portion of it now. The remainder will be played with the investigators who reported it.
All right. You intend to play his messages now. Is that
Some of his
correct?
messages, not all of them.
Okay.
I just want him to be able to identify if that's his voice, Judge.
I'll be fine.
While she's getting that ready for you, did you know a gentleman by the name of Jim Hickey?
I did.
Okay. How did you know Mr. Hickey?
I don't personally know him. I just knew him of Tara mentioning him.
Hang on.
You have one new message and 28 old messages. Monday, 10:19 a.m.
Hey, listen.
And Judge, I'm going to fast forward. This is kind of, it'll make sense later, but I'm going to fast forward through that. Just get started over.
p.m.
Hey, Sarah, this is Tanya Gibbons.
Sunday, 6:23 p.m. Sunday, 6:26 p.m. Okay, you're there. Your next page is going to make it. You're okay. Get your phone in or something. Okay.
Paul, obviously with the feedback we're having today, it's very difficult to hear, but were you able to hear the voice on that audio?
Sound like yes,
Okay. And did you recognize that voice?
it's my voice.
And you were about to say it sounds like something. Are you able to make out what you were saying in that?
I think you could at least page me.
Okay. What did you mean by that?
Page me with like a pager back in
So for those who may not know what a pager is, and I'm sure can you explain what that is?
back before cell phones were an item. We had pagers and we were on call, and you could page the number and it'd beep. Basically, it just looked a little square pager.
Okay.
It just-
And did you have a pager back then?
I did.
Did Tara have your pager number?
She did.
Okay, I'm going to restart it, and that's at 5:38. Sorry.
Sunday, 7:34 p.m. Okay, yeah, please do it, Paul. Try to get word about you now. Okay, please let me know you're all right. If you're there. I'd like you to not call all day. Will you let me hear from me?
The person that we just heard, did you recognize that voice?
I did.
And who did you recognize that person to be?
It's me.
And were you able to make out what you were saying? That was a little more audible.
I just was pleading with her to call me and let me know she's okay.
I am skipping forward. It's starting at 15:03.
I want to talk to you. You take getting home. Have you, not answered the phone, I want to talk to you. Take that. Please call. Sunday, 10:11 p.m. It's me.
I'm going to pause it there at 15:51. Again, whose voice was that we just heard on the message?
It was mine.
And we're able to hear a sound, actually two sounds in that. Were you able to hear two sounds that were not your voice?
Yes.
Okay. What was the first sound, or what did you hear that stood out to you?
Me knocking on the door,
Okay. And then what else did you hear?
dog barking.
Would that, whose dog would that have been?
Tara's.
At this point then, would you have been at her house?
Yes.
I'm going to restart that at 15:51.
Sunday, 11:44 p.m. That goes all the way down here, 12 o'clock at night. And you still on into the different stuff up here. That's very considered community. Monday, 12:04 a.m. Monday, 12:20
I do.
And who do you recognize that voice to be?
Miss Faye Grinstead.
Monday, 12:28 a.m.
Hey, Tara, worried about you, and I called your mom now. She said she can't get hold of you either. If you need to let me know you're all right, I appreciate it. You know, just tell me you're okay. If you don't want to talk, that's fine. Let me know you're okay. All right. Get this message from me. Love you, bye.
Monday, 12:45 a.m. Monday, 12:58 a.m.
Morning, my last message I'm leaving. I wish you'd call and let me know you're okay. I got the phone with you there. Call me. Bye.
Monday, 12:19 a.m.
Yeah, better. Ain't helpful anyway. Well, you got me there, all right?
The horse is up right now, but I'll stop at 1809, and I'll close the rest of it. Did Tara ever call you back?
No.
And, without telling me what anyone told you, did there come a time when you became aware that law enforcement was involved in this case?
Yes.
And how did you become aware of who told you that? I don't want to go into detail of what they said, but who was it that let you know law enforcement had been called?
Well, I called Miss Faye the next morning to see if she showed up for school, and Miss Faye said she had not shown up, and that Joe and a teacher were going to go over to the house and check the house for her. And I told her to go ahead and contact the local law enforcement agency and let them know she needed to file a missing person report, that, she wouldn't have missed school and not called in. So at that point in time, I knew it wasn't good.
What did you do, if anything, at that point?
I waited on Miss Faye to call me back. She called me and told me that they had gone in the house and she wasn't in there.
Yes, sir.
And at that point in time, I took off work and I called the local GBI office, Gary Rothwell, which was at the SAC at the time, and told him what was going on, and didn't know if they had requested their assistance yet, but that, I felt that it needed their attention.
Okay. Did you actually come to Ocilla?
I did.
And did you wind up speaking with Gary Rothwell as well as other agents that day?
I did.
Were you forthright about the kind of relationship you had with Ms. Grimstead when you spoke with GBI agents?
I did.
Were you cooperative in the investigation?
I was.
Through the course of this investigation, essentially until February of 2017, did you consider yourself to be a person of interest by the GBI?
I think I was. I felt like I was being.
And do you know how many times you were questioned by the GBI?
No.
Do you recall if the GBI took any of your devices, such as your work computer or anything of that nature, for evidence?
I turned it over to them, my workstation at work, laptop, and cell phone.
And I want to direct your attention back to a date prior to what we've just heard, when Ms. Grinstead had gone missing. Do you recall a time where you were at Ms. Grinstead's residence and someone else came?
Yes.
And do you recall how long that was before she went missing that weekend?
No, ma'am.
Do you think it would have been more recent or further away in time? If you don't know, it's okay,
I would say a couple months, maybe.
Where were you when the person came to Miss Grinstead's door that day?
I was coming back from Valdosta, dropping off evidence to the crime lab down there, and she had called me and we talked, and she asked me to come by her residence. So I got off the interstate and I went by her residence and walked in, started towards the kitchen, pulled the chair out at the kitchen table and sat down, and immediately, as soon as I sat down, somebody started banging on the door.
Okay. Did you go to the door?
No.
Did Tara go to the door?
She did.
And when Tara went to the door, could you hear what was going on outside?
Yes. Well, she looked out the window first to see who it was, and she said, "Oh my God." And I said, "What is it?" And she said, "It's that crazy Anthony."
Okay. Prior to that date, had you ever heard of anybody named Anthony?
Didn't have a clue who he was.
And other than the things that she said to you about him that date, did you ever talk to her about him again?
No.
Were you able to hear anything that actually was said between the two of them outside?
He was screaming, "Please talk to me, please talk to me. Please come outside and talk to me." And he was like in a panic, like some emergency or something.
Do you have any personal knowledge as to whether or not Tara Grinstead was having a romantic relationship with Anthony Vickers?
I do not.
Did you ever actually speak with Mr. Vickers that day?
No. I came to the door, and he started seeing my presence seemed to agitate him. And he started, using profane language towards me and cussing. And Tara said, "Just go back in. It's not, not going to help anything." And I saw the local law enforcement pull up. I don't know who called him. Somebody called him. He was out there screaming and hollering at her. And I said, "Well, you need to come back in because I don't know what this guy's problem is, but he seems out of control. I don't want you to get hurt." And she says, "I got it." And they came up, and he lit right into them as soon as they came up. And I told her, I said, "Let me know if they need to talk to me. I can tell them what I witnessed."
Yes, sir. On that particular evening, did you give a statement to law enforcement?
They never came in. He was arrested, and they left.
Okay. Did you ever give a statement to law enforcement about that incident?
I did.
Was that before or after she went missing?
Before.
Did you ever have any further conversations with Miss Grinstead about the person Anthony Vickers?
Oh yeah, yeah. I was curious what all that was about.
Okay. Now, did you know of someone by the name of Marcus Harper?
I did.
And how did you know about Marcus Harper? Or what did you know about him?
I just knew it was an ex-boyfriend of Tara's that was in the military. That's basically it.
To your knowledge, at the time that she went missing, what was the status of their relationship?
I think they were broke up. I'm pretty sure they were.
Have you ever, are you aware of any incident that took place a few weeks before Tara was murdered in which she became emotional about Marcus?
She told me about an incident where he accused her of reading his emails.
Okay.
And she was distraught about it, and she really didn't elaborate a whole lot on it other than it scared her and she was real upset.
Through the course of this investigation, were you asked to provide a sample of your DNA?
I was.
And
I did.
Showing opposing counsel on Mark State's Exhibit 201. I'm going to show you what Mark State's Exhibit 201 as. Can you take a look at that for me, please? Do you recognize States 201?
I do.
And how do you recognize States 201?
It's a consent waiver to get saliva.
And is that a true and accurate copy of the consent waiver that you signed in this case?
Yes, it is.
All right, this time I will tender it as it states Exhibit 201.
All right, any objection to board action 201? Thank you, Mr. Merchant. That's submitted without objection. States 201.
May I publish that to the jury, Judge?
Yes.
Looking at States 201, the signature that we see here, whose signature is that?
That's my signature.
And do you recall, or does this indicate to us who actually collected your DNA sample that day?
Bill Botchery with a GBI.
No, I was going to say, did you know Bill Baudry before this date?
I knew who he was.
Did you know any of the other agents or law enforcement who investigated this case?
Yes.
And looking at this particular waiver, can you tell us what was the nature of the investigation that was ongoing as of November of 2005?
Missing person.
Now, for our jurors who may not be familiar with how DNA samples are generally collected, in addition to having consented to having your DNA collected, have you ever collected DNA from persons in your job?
Yes.
And what is the method by which we normally collect DNA for testing?
It's a cotton swab, and we swab the mouth area, around the cheeks, tongue area.
And is that what occurred in this case when you gave your sample?
Yes.
Now, do you recall specifically when I'm moving around, I apologize, but I want to go back to that Saturday evening. When you spoke with Tara, do you recall what time of day or night it was?
It was late because I had fallen asleep in the chair watching, I think it was the Alabama LSU game, I think it was, and I fell asleep. And we've been watching college football all day. And so I'm going to say 10 and 11-ish.
And when you spoke with Tara, was that on her cell phone or her home phone? Do you recall?
I want to say her cell phone, but I'm not 100%.
Do you recall when you spoke with Tara if at any point she indicated that she was not yet home that evening?
The understanding I got from her that night was that she was at home. And she said she was cold. It was cool.
Okay.
And she was at home.
What did that mean to you when she said she was cold or she was cool? Did you know what she meant by that?
She just said it was cool out and she was cold.
Okay. Prior to that last time that you spoke, do you know what Tara had been doing throughout that day?
She had a pageant that she did.
Okay.
She, I know she was doing some girls' hair pageant because I called and one of the little girls answered the phone.
Okay.
And she said, Tara's in the shower. She'll call you back as soon as she gets out. And Tara called me while she was at the pageant.
Do you recall if Tara ever indicated if she went by Troy Davis's house that evening for a barbecue or a cookout?
Yes.
And do you recall if you actually spoke with her while she was there?
Yes.
When Tara, and obviously we heard your messages, but did Tara ever tell you that she loved you?
Yes.
Would it be unusual for Tara to end a phone call with you to tell you that she loved you too?
Yeah.
That would be unusual or would not?
No, would not be unusual.
I believe that's all the questions I have at this time.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's about an hour and a half since we started back after lunch. Let's take a brief bathroom break. Y'all will adjourn to the jury room. Be right back with you. Mr. Dykes, you're welcome to step down if you want to do that.
I'll take you over one more.
Okay, good.
Where'd I get it from?
I'll get it back.
Okay.
Get it before they got me in there. Bring it back. Ms. Watkins, can we have the water, please? Be in recess about 5 minutes, ladies and gentlemen.